Welcome to my crib.
So we decided that we want to do a mobile coop. Just kidding. We love our big stationary coop, even though it's still kind of a work in progress.
We do have a couple good reasons to try out a mobile coop.
When we ordered our chickens initially from the hatchery, we were hoping to get one rooster, and we ended up getting 3. So that didn't really work out in our favor. We knew that was a possibility. We were just kind of hoping that luck would be on our side and we would get the one rooster we wanted. But we ended up with 3 really big, really handsome, pretty sweet roosters.
2 of them are kind of sweet.
Well, one of them's like a puppy, and that's the one that's in here right now. We still have to catch the other one. Usually homesteaders with this situation, there are 2 common solutions to this problem, and that is 1, butchering the extra roosters, and 2, trying to find a new home for them.
So neither of those were really what we wanted to do with ours.
We have like specific goals for our homestead and what we want to do here, and I mean, personally, I don't really want to butcher something by myself. Taylor's vegetarian, and that just isn't something he wants to do at all. I have a freezer full of food anyway, and I don't have any extra space in there even if we wanted to butcher them. Based on my experience with chat groups and Facebook groups and stuff where people are trying to get rid of their roosters, it's not the easiest thing to do. I didn't want to go through the hassle of trying to figure that out.
We decided they could serve us better if we got a little creative and found a different solution. And the mobile coop is what we landed on. Started by laying everything out for the bottom frame. Alright, so just went and redrew it on the computer. Well, Mickayla did, because we had it drawn before for being wider, but we think it was going to be too hard to move that way, so we made it narrower. So we just used the computer, because it's way easier than calculating these angles manually. So I'm going to be working off of this drawing. We already have the bottom frame made, so now I am going to cut these diagonal boards. There's going to be 6, so like kind of looking down the side of it, they'll be like this. This will be a chicken coop. This will all be open. They'll meet at a ridge board here, but I'm actually going to notch the diagonals to hold that ridge rather than have like a weird cut on these diagonal boards. Probably couldn't see it too well, but I was just like, let's see if I can show you here. I was basically mocking up the boards on that end, so I have the angle cut on one side, and I kind of measured out my calculated angle for the top on this board, and I was just kind of holding them up in place where they go, and then putting those points together, and then seeing where this line hit, and it hit like right where this board met this board, so I think that means my angle's pretty good. I'm embarrassed, but I don't know how to use a speed square too well. So anyway, that kind of shows me that this lower angle is good, so I'm going to cut that on every board since the saw is set for that. And then I'll set the saw up for this if I can. Kind of a weird angle for that saw, but we'll figure some way to cut that so they're all even. So since the miter saw can't cut that extreme of an angle, I either have to put the board perpendicular to the miter saw, which like I will do, you're not really supposed to, but if you're, careful and don't cut your fingers off, it works. The issue is this is such a long cut that the miter saw won't even do the whole cut, even if I put it like that. So I can set the circular saw deep enough to cut through 2 boards at once. So what I'm gonna do is make a fence for the circular saw to ride against, so this cut is the angle I want, and I'll clamp 2 boards together and then cut against my fence, and that way I'll at least get 2 at once. So here I'm lining up all the upright boards so I can cut the angles where they meet in the center of the A. Whenever I have multiple boards that all have to be the same, I try to cut them together, but unfortunately my saw blade wouldn't go all the way through the boards. Well, had to take a little break to go to Lowe's because I just cut this angle on the wrong side of these. Since I already have all the angles cut on the other end, they gotta match up a certain way, and I picked these one up and set them down and didn't even look at the other side. So I grabbed a few more boards and I have to remake those, but I'll cut those ones first. I had to recut this end because I didn't go all the way to the corner. You can kind of see how it's flat right there. So I'll just recut this angle, making sure to get rid of this flat part. Kind of took the long way to get there, but see, now we have all 6 of our, I don't know, they're kind of like rafters, part of our truss system here. All 6 of them, and they're cut pretty much exactly the same. So that's cool. So I marked that out for a 2x4. So I'm gonna probably use the circular saw and make this straight cut, and then maybe make part of these cuts, but then I'm gonna clean the rest up with the jigsaw. Once I had all of the main framing boards cut, I laid everything out where I thought it was going to go. Alright, so I just made a bunch of cuts on this, and this is the width of a 2x4. So I'm going to clear this out, and then this is actually going to be, we're going to have like a horizontal support on either side that run the length of the whole coop there. This will actually, it'll serve a couple purposes. It's going to make the floor level of the actual like enclosed coop house where the birds will sleep, and then it's going to tie the sides together better, so it's a little more sturdy, hopefully. Alright, so I wanted this like fairly tight, so when the 2x4 is in here, it actually will hold the boards from like twisting. It's a lot better to have a diagonal brace do that, but I don't really have the option in this design. So the fit of the 2x4 in here is what's going to kind of help that. So I want it to be kind of tight, but I also want it to be loose enough where I'm not like fighting this every step of the way. So I'm going to open this up like one more blade width, and it should be pretty good. And then if any adjustments are needed once it's together, I should be able to just widen it a little bit with the chisel, where it's needed. After notching all of the frame pieces for the horizontal supports, I was ready to start screwing them into the main frame. It was a little hard to hold up at first, but once I got a screw or two in, it stayed up just fine. I had to get creative to hold some of these boards together, but I was able to use a couple of my cut-off angled pieces so I could clamp it together and keep everything tight while I fastened it. Center framing uprights aren't actually centered in this design because they make up the front and back walls of the chicken coop. I'm going to try and put these horizontal supports in right now just to see how far off my cuts are, but I'm probably going to wait to final mount them. I'm going to move on to putting the wheels in here, so we're going to mount the wheels inside, and I'll show you how I do that, but I think that'll be easier if these aren't in my way to work. I just kind of want to see how they fit. Wow. Way too easy. The camera died, so I didn't film this all. But I basically just added this triangle support, drilled a hole through here. This is where our wheel's gonna sit. So we can lift up the other end will have some sort of handle on it so you can pick it up a little bit and then wheel it around. I'm not gonna install these all the way right now because I got a spacer to kind of keep this wheel in place right here, but it's not quite enough, so this wheel would probably end up like sliding over here and jamming against here. So this is like done, and I can install these once I get a little bit extra. I'll probably just get some washers and stack them in there until it is the size I need, but I wanted to do this first just because I had to work in here. So now I think I can mount the horizontal supports and get to framing in the actual coop itself. I got to work cutting out the triangle pieces that would make up the end walls of the coop. I just took some rough measurements and drew out a triangle on some of the scrap plywood we had left over from our big chicken coop. When I put the walls on the ends, I wanted to get as much of the framing done as possible. I added in the horizontal supports that our roof material would screw to, and I added in an extra center support for the floor of the coop. The floor is going to just be made of hardware cloth. The framing on the other side of the roof wasn't so straightforward. Here I'm framing out a door that will eventually be able to open so we can access inside of the coop for cleaning. We decided to make them a permanent feeding station that would be mounted to the wall of the coop. I just used a piece of old gutter that we had laying around and screwed it to a small frame. This way they always have a dedicated feeder. We decided to go with an exterior hatch for the feeding station as well. That way we don't have to crawl through the small door on the front every day when we have to feed them. I wanted to get the hardware cloth inside of the coop floor before I did any more framing on the outside. It's a pretty small space to work in, so I wanted to get as much done as possible before closing it in. All right, so the battery died, but I can still show you kind of. So I just drill holes in the corner of this rectangle, or all four corners of the rectangle that's going to be the door, and that way I can just cut out along the line. These holes are big enough for my saw blade to get into. That way I can just cut out along the line, and I have like a nice rectangle left that I can use for the door. After I got some of the interior details taken care of, I screwed the panels on the end. so before I finish putting all the hardware cloth on that, I am going to get the tube for their watering system mounted. I just took a couple quick measurements, but I guess I'll see if I can get the camera over there and kind of show you where this is going. The reason we left this top ridge board extended is because there's going to be a bucket that hangs right there, and we'll fill that up with water as needed. There's only going to be a couple chickens in here, so we'll probably do it half full and just refresh it every few days. Fitting on this bucket, and then a little bit of flexible hose, and then we're going to put a hard piece of PVC that actually runs down the leg here and then inside of here. It'll run between these two leg boards. That's where it'll be like supported, and it'll have like automatic waterers. Well, not automatic, but the just like chicken watering things where they can pack and get water out of it. So it'll have a few of those, just so they have options and don't have to be right next to each other. So I took some measurements of this stuff, so I'm going to cut some PVC and start like dry fitting this all together. This fits pretty good. I'm going to have to shorten this top piece so we have room for this fitting where the hose is going to go on, and then room for like hose to connect to it. But I can do that afterwards. I really just want to get the chicken waterers mounted in this lower piece, get that mounted, and then just have it sticking out of here. That way it's not in my way, or I don't have to work around the hardware cloth trying to put that on. So I'm going to get that mounted in there, and then this can all be glued together after I have the hardware cloth up. I'm going to put like one wrap of thread tape on here. We'll just kind of see how it goes. These kind of cut their own threads, so they should seal pretty tight, but I'd rather not have it leak. I'm going to glue this end cap on, and then we'll put some water in this pipe, see if they actually hold water. All right, well, just went and leak tested this thing, and both of them leak. They don't really seal against the pipe like they say they're gonna. This is fine. Don't usually have an issue with PVC cement. So I'm going to take these out, put a little bit of silicone on them, thread them back in, and we'll just let it dry. Oh, I should be out of clay. I added the hardware cloth in sections as I went. Once I kind of got more of the smaller details worked out in a certain area, I felt comfortable closing it up with the cloth. Alright, well, I got this side of the roof figured out anyway, but I have like 7 screws. We wanted a functional ridge vent at the top of the coop so air could flow out of the peak. I didn't really feel like buying a piece of ridge vent trim, and we didn't have too much left over from the big coop, but I was able to find some pieces of drip edge and kind of screw them together in the middle, and it left a nice air gap at the top of the roof peak. We had a little bit of help here from our basement chicken, Marmalade. She's been separated from the rest of the flock to heal from a little injury.
Hey, lady. Yeah, you like this little dirt pile that you made over here, huh?
Since we made the roof foldable, we needed something that would keep it sealed up while still allowing us to lift the side. Luckily, a piece of garage door seal seemed to do the trick. After I struggled to get it under the upper edge of the roof, it created a nice gutter that would direct water over the bottom lip.
Alright, so I just put this fitting in the bucket here. I put some waterproof construction adhesive in there, so it seals around there, and then this is going to thread onto here. I'm not going to thread it on tight right now because I want the adhesive to dry without messing with it. So I'll thread that on here, and then this is where our hose will connect to the pipe that's on the coop, and this will be our water reservoir for them.
Last things I had to do were finish up the watering system, make a little ladder for the chickens to get in and out of the coop, and then add a handle to the back so we are able to pick it up and roll it around.
You want to show it off? Woo! You don't have much space to move around in here.
Moves really nice on concrete.
Yeah. Can't see to drive this thing. Need mirrors.
It's a backup.
All right, let's do a little coop tour.
All right, so this is our new A-frame rooster house that we built. We've mentioned it before, but we got 2 extra roosters, and 3 roosters is too much for our normal coop, so we built them their own house. Go through a couple features that we put in this little coop that hopefully make it easy for us and nice for the roosters to live in. Right here we have, like, obviously the main door. This will be for us if we ever have to get in here for any reason, if we have to get one of the roosters, or if we want to let them out. Long term, we want to have like an electric net fence for them to come out, come and go as they please, and kind of, you know, free range in a small zone. So we built them a simple little ramp here. Hopefully this serves as a roost if they want to sit somewhere during the day, but it'll also make it easier for them to get in and out of the coop, so they don't have to fly into the small hole. We did cut that hole for an automatic chick cozy door. We don't have another one yet, but we're gonna get one eventually so we don't have to go in and out of here every day to open the door for them. Right here you can see we have a piece of gutter. This is gonna be their feeder. And to make it easy for ourselves, we put a little hatch on the side here so we can open this up and just pour their feed right in the gutter here, so we don't have to get in and out of there with a food bucket or try and scoop it like reaching through the door. All right, you might be wondering what this weird bucket and tube setup is for, and we're trying out like a permanent watering system here. So we have this connected through PVC pipe down underneath, and if you look closely you can see that there's a couple of the watering nipples that they can peck and get water out of. We can just keep this bucket partially full of water and keep topping it up as needed, and it'll just gravity feed down to those.
We have it notched too. We're gonna see if that's gonna be sufficient, but we're not moving it a ton, so.
Yeah, we did just wheel it like all the way out here from our basement, which is probably like, I don't know, at least 80 yards. And it rolls really well, surprisingly, thanks to this nice heavy-duty handle we put on here. We just kind of extended the side supports and then drilled through it that's just like a piece of conduit, and it's plenty strong. We just have some small like push lawnmower wheels. They're pretty inexpensive and they just have plastic hubs. So we'll see how they hold up over time, but I mean, we're only gonna probably move this thing like 6 feet at a time, you know, just put them in a new spot every day. So we think they'll hold up pretty good. We mounted them inside of the frame into the corner brace there. We've seen a lot of mobile coops with like exterior wheels, and we think this will hold up a lot better. We have a couple little neat features on the actual rooster house that hopefully make our lives easier to keep their bedding fresh and keep it clean. There is actually a small gap up here under this ridge cap that'll allow some ventilation to escape from the top still, but keep them nice and dry. And then on this side, so we can hold that open with the bungee cord, and this gives us full access to their actual house. that'll allow us to keep it clean and refresh their bedding.
We did hardware cloth as the floor. The main purpose that we're using them for, which is fertilizing and scratching up our soil. Their poop can drop right down through this, hopefully, and they'll get good airflow in here. We use 1/2-inch hardware cloth in here so that we can still lay straw in here for the really cold nights, because it does get kind of chilly here for a little bit of the year. So we should still be able to lay straw down in here if we want to, but in the summer they'll have really nice ventilation in here.
We used one of our favorite cedar branches here that we have a pile of to make a roost. We'd used those to make all the roosts in their big coop, and they seem to work out really well. So that should give them a nice kind of like big natural branch to grab onto when they sleep. And there's only going to be 2 of them in here, so that should be plenty of space for 2 roosters.
If you wanted to make this for more chickens than just the 2 that we're gonna have in here, it is a little cozy.
Yeah, this spot, I mean, I think probably like, I think if we repositioned like and did an extra roost, you could probably have 4 hens in here pretty comfortably. But our roosters are pretty big.
Yeah.
So I think 2 would be, having 2 of them in here is all the space there really is.
But what I was gonna say is, if you wanted to have more in here and maybe you have a rooster that's kind of big too, I think we could probably drop the floor down on this a little bit lower. Like if you moved this whole horizontal piece out here down a little bit, the handle might not be as convenient for you to pick up, but it would give you more space in the actual coop. So that's definitely an option to do if you were wanting to have maybe up to like five chickens total in here.
And yeah, and since our roosters are so big, we kind of prioritized their standing space underneath, because we figure they're probably going to be outside most of the day, and we wanted them to have a nice comfortable area to range around.
Yeah, they're pretty tall. So this is 2 feet off the ground, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so overall this whole thing is about 5.5 feet. So roughly 5.5 feet tall. The coop's about 2 feet off the ground. So if you just had hens in here, you could definitely lower this a little bit. And they'd still have plenty of space, but our roosters are kind of tall.
One extra thing we did for security on the actual house here where they're going to be sleeping at night is we put hardware cloth underneath of our roofing material. We use pretty thin PVC corrugated roofing because we wanted this thing to be lightweight. We thought that this might be, you know, if something really wanted to get in here, it could probably like break this. So we thought it would be smart to add an extra layer of protection underneath.
Yeah, instead of doing the like plywood under here or whatever.
Yeah, we didn't want to put plywood sheeting on it because it would have made it really heavy. That's why we only use plywood on the ends.
And then in the summer, we also plan to potentially get like a white tarp to put over here if they're getting extra hot out here in the sun. We want to make sure they have plenty of shade, so they'll be able to go under there. But we might also supplement with a tarp on this half.
Ricky.
They're dripping from the actual water because they're supposed to be upside down.
The first reason we wanted a mobile coop was we need help cleaning up our garden, and the chickens are really good at that.
It's their favorite thing. And the second reason is a little abstract, so you're gonna have to bear with me on this one. It's always been our plan to sort of rotate our older layers once they do get older to a mobile coop, and then put our younger new layers into the stationary coop with that system set up, and then the older layers, their primary job would at that point be to improve our land, follow our goats around as we move them, or whatever other animals we have on the property, and just improve the soil for us. The caveat with that is, and the reason we didn't do that right away, we both have full-time jobs. We're renovating our house right now. We're trying to get this farm not only cleaned up but set up, and there's just a lot going on right here. Having a whole flock in a mobile coop that we have to move very often and in an area that's probably bigger than just our garden just didn't seem like it was going to contribute to our quality of life right now. This little coop with only 2 roosters in it should be able to easily be moved around just our garden space for the most part. And it shouldn't have to be moved every day, and if it does, it's only a few feet. We don't have the electric net yet. When we do get that, we can probably move them around inside that or let them be in that for a while. So we're not going to be moving them constantly. And we figured this small scale one would be pretty good practice for just seeing if we like this at all, and instead of trying to like convert our whole flock to that at some point, or the older ones at some point, if we don't like it in the future, now we'll know. So with that being said, this was the best solution for us, we feel, right now. I'm sure other people would have different solutions that would work better for them, but this is what works best for us. And I really want our channel to be showing you guys us doing things that work for us and not necessarily just doing what other people are doing, because that's like the standard way of doing things. We really try to think through our projects and come up with solutions that are going to benefit us in the long run, but also short term. We hope you guys like this little coop, and if you guys want plans for this, I'm working on those, so let me know if you want them in the comments. I will be posting those hopefully soonish. This is our little frat house rooster coop. We'll keep you posted on how it goes. If you guys enjoyed this video, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye guys.